I, 38M, and my wife, 37F, have been together for 11 years, married for 4, and we share a 3-year-old son. Over the past 2 years, our marriage has become increasingly strained, marked by arguments and differing visions for the future. Since spring 2023, my wife has expressed feeling oppressed in our marriage, which led her to seek new friendships. She began spending significant time with colleagues and women of her nationality. We live abroad, where we relocated 4 years ago for her international career. I reluctantly adapted to our situation, accepting a role as our son's full-time caregiver for the past 3 years while managing a small real estate business in my home country. This setup allows me to work just 2 to 3 months a year, spending the rest of my time with my family in our current country of residence. Up until spring 2023, I believed we were a happy family, spending time together, focusing on our child, and enjoying each other's company. But then my wife seemed to experience a personal crisis, demanding more independence and friendships. I initially supported her, encouraging hobbies like painting and going to the gym. However, my concerns grew when she started going out with colleagues, people she already spent every workday with, and hanging out on Friday nights or Saturday evenings. She began to seem bored with my and our son's company, frequently complaining about the burdens of marital life and even joking about open relationships or living as friends under the same roof. At first, I dismissed these jokes, but she increasingly brought up a particular male colleague in conversations, mentioning his name during dinners and recounting work stories involving him. Over time, I grew suspicious and voiced my concerns, which she brushed off as insecurity and a lack of confidence. She insisted she had every right to go out as much as she wanted, despite my discomfort. These arguments persisted throughout 2023 and into early 2024. The situation escalated over the summer when she confessed that she no longer loves me. She admitted she felt embarrassed to introduce me to her colleagues or invite me to gatherings, claiming she feared I might say something inappropriate. Later, during heated arguments, she told me outright that she hates me, blames me for ruining her happiness, and sees me as the problem in our family. Hearing such things from the woman I love, for whom I've made significant sacrifices, including uprooting my life to follow her across 8 countries, has been devastating. I'm far from perfect. I admit I've been complacent in romance, taken her for granted, and made mistakes. But she herself admitted that much of the blame lies with her. She confessed to feeling depressed in our marriage, believing divorce is the best option, a conclusion I have reluctantly accepted. She also revealed this summer that she identifies as bisexual, accusing me of being unsupportive of the LGBTQ+ community and citing different ideals about life as a reason for our disconnect. Now I'm at a crossroads. Am I foolish to keep trying to salvage this marriage, despite her efforts to push me away over the past 2 years? Or should I proceed with a divorce, given how she has treated me? Additional context. 1. Custody agreement. We've tentatively agreed that I will have full custody of our son for the next 7 years, except during summer and Christmas, after which he will take full custody until he turns 18. This arrangement feels absurd to me, like she's avoiding the challenging early years of parenting. But I fear rejecting it could lead to losing custody altogether, as she has threatened to fight for sole custody in court. 2. Financial struggles. 2 years ago, my wife made risky financial investments, leaving us in significant debt. Although we have a separation of assets agreement, her decisions have negatively impacted our quality of life. 3. Lifestyle disagreements. I've suggested settling in one of our home countries to provide a stable environment for our son. However, she refuses, citing her career ambitions. She has even applied for an overseas job without consulting me, only revealing this during an argument when she claimed it didn't matter because we're divorcing anyway. After all these events, I started feeling like I was trapped in some kind of nightmare I couldn't escape. On one hand, I look at our son, this small and defenseless boy, to whom I try to give all my love and attention so he doesn't sense the tension in the house. But on the other hand, I see my wife, a person for whom I sacrificed almost everything, acting as though I and our relationship never existed. She seems entirely focused on herself and her desires. She began spending even more time outside the house, rarely asking how I was feeling or what I thought about anything. It's not just a lack of care, it's complete indifference, and it hurts. One evening, when she came home late again without bothering to explain where she had been, I decided to try having an honest conversation with her. I told her that, despite all our differences and the pain she'd caused me, I was still willing to fight for us. I suggested seeing a marriage counselor, trying to communicate better, and figuring out what went wrong. Her response, to put it mildly, was discouraging. She didn't even pretend to care. She just looked at me with a mix of disdain and frustration and said, "It's too late. I don't want to fix anything anymore. I want to be free." Those words shattered me. Everything I had thought was valuable and meaningful in our life together no longer mattered to her. But I held myself together for the sake of our son, who was peacefully asleep in his room. After that conversation, I realized that things couldn't go on like this. I started seriously considering going through with the divorce, though it was a difficult decision. But what held me back was the thought of our son. I couldn't accept the idea of his life being split between two parents living in different countries, especially with the absurd plan my wife had proposed. The situation became even more strained when I discovered that she was actively communicating with some man from her office. Of course, she denied that there was anything between them, but I had stopped believing her by then. I had often noticed her texting someone late at night, and once I even overheard her laughing while talking on the phone. It was clearly not a work-related conversation. I felt completely drained. It seemed like she had already chosen her path, while I was still clinging to the past, to memories of when we were a happy family. At some point, I decided that I couldn't just sit and wait for her to completely destroy everything we had built. I started consulting with a lawyer about divorce proceedings and potential custody arrangements for our son. My primary goal was to protect him and provide a stable childhood, despite the chaos in our family. But even this turned out to be far from simple. My wife continued to insist on her custody plan, and every time I tried to propose an alternative, she would threaten to take me to court. She claimed I wouldn't be able to keep custody of our son because she had more resources, connections, and opportunities. Amid all this, I started noticing changes in our son. He became more withdrawn, sometimes irritable. He's only 3, but I'm sure he feels the tension at home. This made me even more determined to break out of this toxic cycle and try to create a healthier environment for him. Meanwhile, my wife continued to make her own plans. She told me that in the coming months, she might have to move to another country for a new job. She didn't even try to ask my opinion or warn me in advance. For her, it was just another step toward her freedom. One day, after an especially heated argument, I finally decided enough was enough. I told her I was ready for a divorce, but on one condition. I wanted full custody of our son. I explained that her lifestyle wasn't suitable for raising a child, that he needed stability, not constant relocations, and an absent mother. Her reaction was predictable. She threw a tantrum, accusing me of trying to take her son away and insisting I had no right to make such decisions. But in that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid of her words anymore. I had already made my decision. Right now, I'm in the process of filing the necessary paperwork. It's not easy, but I know I'm doing this for our son. I want to give him a chance at a normal childhood where he feels loved and secure. As for my wife, I don't know what will happen to her. Maybe she'll find what she's looking for, or maybe she'll realize what she's lost. But that's no longer my concern. My focus is on doing everything I can to ensure that our son doesn't become a victim of our mistakes and disagreements.